Right now, as you watch this, something is being taken from you. Not your money, not your data. Something older, something more valuable. Your time to think, your ability to be still. The part of you that exists when no one is watching. You did not agree to give it up. You were never asked. And the system taking it has been doing so quietly for 20 years. In 1492, Columbus landed on a shore already inhabited by millions. He declared it discovered. He didn't conquer empty space. He conquered occupied space and renamed the occupation a progress. 5 centuries later, a different kind of fleet has arrived. Invisible, moving at the speed of light, planting flags in the last territory that was never supposed to be for sale. The inside of your mind. We have a name for when a powerful force enters a territory, extracts its resources without consent, restructures the lives of those living there to serve someone else's profit, and calls it a progress. We call it colonialism. And I want to make the case today that the attention economy is not like colonialism. It is indeed colonialism. Same logic, same playbook, new territory. The territory now is your mind. To understand what's happening to you, you need to understand how the original colonialism worked. In the 1600s, the Dutch East India Company arrived in a small cluster of islands in Indonesia called the Banda Islands. These islands grew nutmeg, one of the most valuable spices in the world at the time. The people there had been growing it, trading it, living alongside it for centuries. The Dutch did not arrive and ask to buy it. They arrived, took it, killed most of the population when they resisted, and turned the rest into laborers on land that had been theirs forever. And then they sold the nutmeg back to the world at 1,000% profit. The company made a fortune. The people of Banda lost everything. And here is the part that matters. The Dutch East India Company did not think of itself as doing something evil. It thought of itself as bringing order, efficiency, civilization. It had a story, and the story made the extraction feel legitimate. That story is the mechanism. Just keep that in mind. In 2004, a college student in a dorm room launched a website that let people post about themselves. Nobody lost their home. Nobody was killed. It seemed harmless at the time. It seemed really fun. 20 years later, the average human being spends nearly 7 hours a day on screens, checks their phone 58 times on average, feels anxious when the battery drops below 20%, cannot read 3 pages of a book without their hand moving towards the device. And somewhere in Silicon Valley, a $700 billion advertising industry runs entirely on one thing: your attention. Not your subscription fee, not your data technically. Your attention packaged, auctioned off in milliseconds, sold to whoever wants to influence what you buy, what you believe, what you vote for. $700 billion a year, built on something that was never supposed to be a commodity. In 1969, a man named Herbert Simon said something at a lecture that should have stopped the world cold. He said, "A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." Simple, almost obvious, but the implication underneath was brutal. If attention is scarce and information keeps growing, then attention becomes the most valuable resource on earth, and someone will find a way to own it. 28 years later, a former physicist named Michael Goldhaber published a piece in Wired magazine. He called it Attention Shoppers. He said, Attention, not money, not oil, not data. Attention is the currency of the coming age. Whoever controls the flow of attention controls everything else. He predicted influencer culture. He predicted political shamelessness. Leaders who thrive not on competence but on the ability to hold a crowd's gaze. He predicted the death of sustained thought, the ability of ordinary people to sit with difficult idea long enough to understand it. He was laughed at, called eccentric, alarmist. However, each of his predictions came true. And here's the number I want you to hold. A study published in 2025 found that when people had mobile internet blocked, just blocked, nothing else changed, their sustained attention improved by the equivalent of reversing 10 years of cognitive decline. 10 years. Not 10 days, but 10 years. Reversed just by removing the phone. Think about what that means. It means the damage is real. It means it accumulates over time, the way damage does. And it means the occupation, because that is what it is. The occupation is the cause. Every colonialism needs a story. The British said they were bringing civilization to people who couldn't govern themselves. The Spanish said they were bringing God to people living in darkness. Silicon Valley says it is connecting the world, giving everyone free access to information, building community across borders. And here's the thing. The story is partly true. You have reconnected with old friends. You have found communities you couldn't have found otherwise. You have learned things you never would have encountered. That is real. That is also exactly how the best extractions work. The gift is real. What it cost you is hidden. Delete Instagram tonight. Go 24 hours without it. Notice what happens in your body. That low-level restlessness, the hand that moves towards the phone and finds nothing. The faint feeling of being cut off from something, severed from the current you didn't know you were plugged into. That feeling is not you being weak. That feeling was engineered. Tristan Harris was a design ethicist at Google. He quit and went public with what he knew. He said every app on your phone was built by a team of engineers whose only metric, the number that they were measured by, the number that determined their bonus, was the time on platform. Infinite scroll was not designed to be convenient. It was designed to have no stopping point. The same way a slot machine has no natural moment to walk away. The notification badge was not designed to inform you. It was designed to create a low-grade anxiety that only one action relieves: opening the app. These are not accidents of a popular product. They are product specifications. Byung-Chul Han, a philosopher who had spent his career studying modern power, calls this psychopolitics. Old power works through the body, through fear. New power works through desire, through the feeling that you are choosing freely, while the architecture of the choice has already been built around you. The most efficient case is the one the prisoner decorates and calls it a home. I want to slow down here, because this is where the argument gets important, what the Vedic tradition says about the human mind. For thousands of years, the sages of Himalayas investigated consciousness not as a philosophical hobby, but as a precise, disciplined science of inner experience. And what they found again and again was this: underneath all your thoughts, underneath your anxieties, your desires, your memories, your opinions, there is a layer of awareness that is simply watching. They call it Sakshi, the witness. It is not your personality. It is not your mood. It is not the voice in your head that never stops talking. It is the one who notices all of those things, still, quiet, already free. You have felt it in the moment of genuine silence, in that second after waking before the day rushes in the nature when the mental noise briefly drops and something underneath becomes briefly, unmistakably present. That is the Sakshi. That is what you actually are beneath everything the world has layered on you. Now, before I tell you why this matters, I want to address something you might already be thinking. If the Sakshi is permanent, if it cannot be touched, cannot be disturbed, then what exactly is being threatened? Right question. Here's the answer. The Vedic tradition distinguishes between two things: the Sakshi, the witnessing depth, and Chitta, the surface mind. The layer of thoughts, reactions, cravings, noise are Chitta. The Sakshi cannot be colonized, that's true. But Chitta, the turbulent surface, absolutely can. And the attention economy has built an entire industry around keeping that surface permanently agitated, permanently reactive, permanently too loud for anything beneath it to be heard. Think of your mind as a lake. The Sakshi is the stillness at the bottom, always there, unchanged. But if someone keeps throwing rocks into that lake every second, every minute, every hour, notification, outrage, comparison, craving, the next video, the next scroll, the surface never settles. And if the surface never settles, you never see the bottom. You don't just lose access to your depth, you forget it was ever there. You forget what stillness feels like. You forget that you were ever anything other than reactive, distracted, incomplete, always needing the next thing to feel whole. And the person who has forgotten their own depth is the perfect customer, endlessly stimulable, endlessly hungry, never asking the one question that would end the hunger. Who am I when the screen goes dark? That is the colonial outcome. Not chains, not force, the forgetting of what it felt like to be free. The British didn't need to imprison every Indian. They just needed Indians to stop believing freedom was possible. The algorithm doesn't need to imprison you. It just needs you to stop remembering that there is somewhere inside you that was never captured. Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the ancient instruction to still the turbulent surface of the mind, was never just a meditation technique. It was a map back to yourself, a reminder that beneath the noise, the witness is still there, unchanged and waiting. The attention economy had spent 20 years perfecting the science of preventing that return. That is the war, not for your consciousness which cannot be owned, but for your relationship with it, your memory of it, your belief that it exists. The colonizers of the old world built cathedrals in occupied lands, monuments to the civilization they claimed to be delivering. Today's colonizers build data centers. The cathedral was at least beautiful, but neither was built for you.